Hi, everyone. Alex Wilson here, broker owner, Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate, and co-founder of Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate. We have Kyle DeVigi. As I mentioned, this is going to be the Why We're Investing in Calgary webinar. We take a deep dive beyond the headlines, why we see incredible opportunity, continue to see credible opportunity out in Calgary. We have bought in Calgary. We have sold to our family, our friends in Calgary, these opportunities. So we are presenting this information to you as well, and why we continue to think it's great. So I'm going to start up in the presentation. I'll share my screen now. Why we're investing in Calgary. So a little background on myself, then we'll go into background on Kyle. So owner and broker of record for Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate. Been selling real estate in Toronto for over 11 years. Number one Remax agent in Ontario, individuals transactions 2019. These stats are 2019. They don't have the 2020 stats out yet. That comes out in March. Number 25 in Canada, individual. Number 80 in the world, individual for Remax. And that's out of 120,000 agents. Been inducted to the Remax Hall of Fame and awarded the Remax Lifetime Achievement Award at 35, currently 39. None of that has any relevance to what we're going to talk about today. The next line does, and this is what we're here for. It's turned a deposit of $39,300 into a $14 million portfolio, which includes 14 condos, High Park triplex, and apartment building in Hamilton. So that's what I've been able to accomplish over this period. It's the investing that really we're really focused on and helping people build wealth in that. And then Kyle, I'll let you talk about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So obviously a licensed sales representative here in Ontario. I've been investing in real estate since 2012. Alex and I bought our first investment condos at the exact same time as part of the first development. So investing for 8-9 years now, and I've been able to grow my portfolio as well. So I'm a current landlord and I own 6 properties throughout Toronto and the GTA as well. Why I was really drawn to real estate was because I previously managed the lottery draws for Lotto 649 and Lotto Max nationally. So the actual balls and the drums, that I was responsible for actually performing those draws. And I saw statistics where over 40% of people were looking to win the lottery in order to fund their retirement. They were gambling on their future. So I saw that and I said, I want to switch so that people are actually investing in their future. And I see real estate as the perfect way to do that, which is why I made the career switch and have been selling real estate and working with investors full time now for a couple of years. And like Alex said, my first deposit was about $38,500, and I now have a portfolio of over $4 million in 6 properties. So growing that every day.
And what we're going to do, we're going to take the first 5 minutes. I'm going to show you why you're doing this. So we've talked about deposits and portfolio valuations, but let's show you the true power. So we're going to take the first 5 minutes. We're going to go into that, and then we're going to go into Calgary. So here's my portfolio, very transparent with it. We're all taking this journey together. So this is everything I've bought. So I look at it. I don't look at it today. I look at what's it going to be worth in the future. You always need to look in the future to understand why you're doing all of this. And we did a great video called Build Your Own Pension Fund with Real Estate. And this is why I'm giving you a snapshot here so you can understand why you're actually doing this. Why should I buy real estate? As I mentioned right off the top, real estate does not provide instant gratification, but it does provide the ability to build substantial wealth. So what I've done, I've taken my portfolio, the current market value of everything, and I looked at what's it's going to be, what will it be worth in 30 years? This is at a 3% compounded annual growth rate, a very conservative number. So in 30 years, my portfolio will be worth $36 million. Why 30 years? Well, when you buy investment properties, you do a 30-year amortization on the investment properties. That means all the mortgages will be paid off in 30 years. And at 3% compounded annual growth, I've done nothing. The tenants have been there the entire time. It's gone up in value, and the tenants have covered all the costs and provided some cash flow too. We don't even factor in the cash flow. What happens? Portfolio will be worth $36 million. Now, my background is economics, finance, accounting. So $36 million, well, there's issues of inflation and what's that going to be worth in today's purchasing power and those kind of things. So I want to show you what $36 million will be worth in 30 years in today's terms. So what that will be is, we've done that. The calculation is just nearly $21 million. So we're looking at $21 million. You'll have $21 million of purchasing power in 30 years. So my goal is to show you how small actions you can make can build you wealth in the future. And it's important to understand how this wealth translates in today's purchasing power. So we went one step further. So it's like, okay, great. That's awesome. $21 million. That looks fantastic. But what does that provide me? Your whole goal is you're doing this to provide yourself with a retirement income. You're doing this for future generations. Our tagline is build financial freedom and generational wealth. That's our tagline. So what I did is I took that, okay, my portfolio 30 years is going to be worth nearly $21 million. Well, what if I just put a 5% ROI on that? Thinking like a pension fund, I want to get a 5% return on that. Now, typical return people look for is actually greater, 6 or 7%, but really wanted to keep this conservative for everyone. Then we want to reinvest 2% of that to protect against inflation. You don't want inflation eating away at the principal value amount. So that means that the 5% ROI, my portfolio will generate over $1 million a year. Can I live off $1 million a year? I think, yeah, I think so. And if I inflation adjust that, can I live off over $600,000 a year? Yeah, definitely. And think of, in your later years of life, your expenses actually go down, right? You're not the children and all those different things. Those are gone. Houses are paid off, everything like that. So when you look at it with the pension fund eyes, why am I doing this? What payout is this going to give me in the future? You really focus in on, okay, I buy real estate, I hold, it goes up in value. I will have something to fall back on later on in life. And now the idea is, you may be thinking, Alex, your numbers are crazy. I can't do it. Well, yes, you can. I've just broke it down in this slide here. My portfolio is worth a lot now because I've been doing this for 11 years already. But even if you just start now, there's still plenty of time to build up an amount you live in. I don't need $1 million in 30 years to live off. I don't need $600,000 a year to live off of. I'll need probably substantially less. So when I look at, if I just break it down, if I have $1 million portfolio, a $2 million portfolio, $3 million portfolio, the value in 30 years, do the inflation adjustment, that's my recommended yearly payout, inflation adjusted again, but in today's purchasing power. You can build over $100,000 of annual income or $200,000, depending on what you pay out, if you build a $3 million portfolio. And it just starts with one property. And one property goes up in value. Then you buy another property, another property, another property. And you're able to fund that with the current properties to do that. So that's everything that Kyle and I have done over the last 11 years doing this, buying the first one in 2012. So I guess 9 years, really, when we look at the ownership, when we actually own things. So 9 years, and just use those properties to continue to grow the property. Now, why we are excited about Calgary is that the price point in Calgary is similar to how we first got started in 2012. Our first condos were in the 260 valuation range. And that's where we're looking at the values in the condos in Calgary. So the growth that is possible, the price points that are there allow for that cash flow positive opportunities. So when we looked at the pricing and we looked at the positive cash flow, then we asked ourselves, well, why Calgary? Why do people want to live in Calgary? Let's take the deeper dive in there. And this is the exercise we went through before we invested out there. So Calgary, number one most livable city in North America for the last 2 consecutive years. It's where people want to live. The 4th most livable city in the world. Healthcare, culture, education, infrastructure. Top 5 on the Economist Intelligent Unit's Globability Living Index for 10 consecutive years. From a lifestyle standpoint, it's just the foothills of the Canadian Rockies, tons of green space, park space, and the 2nd lowest cost of living of Canadian cities. and the 9th lowest in North America. It's cheap to live there. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. So Calgary has a lot of attractive things that want to draw people to live there. And it is the sunniest place in North America, 2,300 hours of sun-filled hours, extensive network of pathways, and ranked second for the healthiest lifestyle. So again, if we look at it, well, where do we want to live? Where will people want to live? And especially in this post-COVID world, people are looking at lifestyles. People are looking at, what outdoor activities am I going to be able to do? And there's already a shift, and there will continue to be a shift of people looking at different destinations of where they can work. They'll have people asking, why do I need to live where I am? Is there a lower cost environment that I can do the current job that I'm doing? Again, lower cost, but also a better lifestyle perspective. And that's what, in North America, that's what Calgary has to offer. So the infrastructure, the natural environment is all there for Calgary to prosper. And then just outside of the city, as mentioned, it's in the foothills, 5 world-class ski resorts within 2 hours, an hour and a half drive to Banff, one of the most world-recognized locations. You can go there every weekend. Heck, you can go there in the evening after work if you wanted to. And you got over 200 hiking trails in the Banff National Park. And that 1.5 hours is the real 1.5 hours. It's not hey, I can go to Muskoka in 1.5 or 2 hours, but I got to leave at 2 in the morning. There's no traffic. There doesn't have the traffic congestion out there. You can actually get out there in 1.5 hours. These are massive, massive considerations as people re-identify where they want to live. So why? So that's great from a lifestyle. It's an attractive place to live. But why is Alex and Kyle investing in Calgary? I got my notes. Got to go to my notes page. Oops, too far. Okay, so let's look at the stats. Population growth. So we're in the business of investing in roofs over heads. If you think about it, we are investing in the shelter that people are living on. Now, if you watch many of my videos, I've talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. One of the primary needs of individuals is shelter, warmth, food. So we're investing in a primary need of individuals. So if we're investing in roofs over people's heads, we want to check out population. Is the city growing? Well, it's had net population growth of 10,000 people per year. So it is growing. And these people also have money. Calgary has the highest per capita millionaires of all the major Canadian cities. And Calgary has the highest wages and salaries per employees in the country at $66,000. So the population is growing. They're wealthy. And the general population has the highest salaries and wages in Canada. So we have positive growth in populations. That means they're going to need more roofs for the people that are coming in. They're making money, so they can pay higher rents. They can pay higher prices for these roofs. These are positive things. So in the past and present, we know that the population is growing. But what about the future? Oops, wrong way. Well, this is where things get even more exciting. Alberta will have the highest growth rate in population in Canada. Double the growth rate of Ontario. I didn't dig down on this in past presentations, but I looked at this when I was just looking at the math. And we'll go from having less than 600,000 people to BC to 400,000 more people in BC over the next 23 years. That's a swing of 1 million people, So Alberta has the highest growth rate for population predicted over the next 23 years. And the swing of its neighbor, which is we all know BC is much higher priced than Alberta is. They're going to have a 1 million population swing to Alberta. Where will all the people live? Where will you invest? They need roofs over their heads. Highest population growth in Canada, right there. So when you look at the stats, you're like, well, that makes sense. Then you got to follow the money too, because they got to pay for the roofs. So we've talked about that they had the highest per capita millionaires in Canada. We also talked about they have the highest wages in Canada. We follow the population growth. Now let's follow the money. So Calgary's GDP output is the 4th highest in Canada for cities. But it's the 2nd most affordable city in Canada. There is room for growth. Now, if you look at the economy of Calgary, it has a greater GDP than actual provinces. It has a greater GDP than Manitoba, has a greater GDP than Saskatchewan. There is significant economic growth, over $100 billion of economic growth per year, 100 billion economic growth, GDP, economic gross domestic product happening in the Calgary area each year. These are important things to look at. So we're looking at what's the potential for growth in these areas. It's quite significant. I just spoke about following the money. So we're following the money of the individuals in the actual Calgary area, but let's follow someone else's money. So Minto we do a lot of work with Minto. Now Minto is one of the largest builders in Canada, based in Ottawa and Toronto. Their REIT has $2.9 billion worth of assets under management. The founding family of the Greenbergs, the last valuation I could find was 1.57 billion, and I think that was in 2016 or 2015. So I can tell you it's gone up from then. And they have over 1,100 employees across Canada, southern US. They're active in Toronto, Ottawa, the GTA, and southern US, and now in Calgary. So what I mean by follow the money, significant builder, billions of assets, over 1,100 employees. That means they have a team of analysts that are looking at markets. What market do we want to go into next that's going to be profitable for us to invest in? Well, they've chosen Calgary, and I'm following their money. They're looking at the opportunities where they can invest and profit in a market, and they have a significant backing of staff. Yes, I'm doing my stats. Kyle's doing his stats, but they have higher educated people on payroll that are doing a lot more work than us, and they're choosing to buy in Calgary and still are actively buying sites in Calgary. So I'm following their money. So buy low, sell high. Speaking of following money, Minto saw the opportunity there. Now, when we look at, I pulled this slide up from Warren Buffett. Last year, he made his first oil and gas investment in over 10 years. He bought a pipeline for $9.7 billion. Buying low and seeing the future value in the future. Now, you got to look at oil and gas as the backbone of the Alberta and Calgary economy. And again, think of Warren Buffett. Now, I don't know if anyone knows, Warren Buffett started in insurance. And why he likes insurance is because insurance provides a stable cash flow for his investments. And then he profits off the investments. And he uses the premiums, which generates significant cash flow. Think of the oil and gas now as the backbone of the Calgary economy. It may not be where your future growth is, but that's your future cash flow that's going to provide a backstop to the economy, and then you're going to grow from there. So something important that I bring on this slide when I see Warren Buffett is thinking about what's my backbone. My backbone is oil and gas, but there's going to be growth in other industries beyond that, which we're going to talk about. But we're also where the buy low opportunity is. We look at new condo sales prices have dropped 21% since 2017. That's a great thing. I see that as a good thing because I'm looking for the buy low opportunity. I'm looking at where's the market down, not where the market is up, because that's going to be the area which is going to go up in the future. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. Also, we look at distribution. So the Trans Mountain Pipeline reaches a key milestone in construction. Now, we may have heard in the news about the XL pipeline. Doesn't matter. Keystone doesn't matter. Never brought it up in any presentation that I've done. The Trans Mountain Pipeline, which as Canadians we all own, is going to triple capacity. It's scheduled for completion in December 2022 and will lead to an increase of 14% of Canada's total pipeline capacity. So significant growth in that area. And it's of strategic importance to Canadians. It's 100% owned and it's 100% on Canadian soil. What that means is no foreign powers, like we just saw, can disrupt or impact the flow or the completion of this project. On top of that, it also gives us access to international markets. And why that's important is the whole issue with Alberta and its oil is not the actual price of worldwide oil. It's that Alberta is a landlocked province, and it's not easy to get the oil actually transported out of that area. So that's why you need pipelines. And not our sole source, but our largest purchaser of that is actually the US market. And that leads to a artificially depressed pricing of our Canadian oil. In 2020, the worst of the market, we saw it selling for 50% less than Texas oil. And it's just a pure distribution issue. With this new pipeline access, we're going to solve part of the distribution problem, which will help bring our oil back up closer to the worldwide oil price. So it's a distribution issue. It has nothing to do with the worldwide oil price. And this is happening. And we as Canadians own that. As well, when we look at so we mentioned that XL and we talked about that pipeline. Well, we actually had record levels of imports to the American market in 2020, 3.8 million barrels in 2020. They're predicted to hit 4.2 to 4.4 by 2025. We have capacity to send 4 million barrels down to the US. And there are actual other projects that are under construction, which will allow us to increase that capacity to accommodate that extra demand that the US will require by 2025. So the XL pipeline, it doesn't matter because we have the existing capacity already. Because it is such a political pipeline, this was already canceled in 2015 once. There were other things that were going on out there that the market adjusted for this already. Market has adjusted for this a long time ago. So there's not a capacity issue sending oil to the US. We have the capacity, and there's other twinning and tripling of other pipelines that'll increase capacity to the US. So we'll meet the demand to the US market. The Trans Mountain Pipeline will then give us the bump to the international market, which will allow the price of Alberta oil to increase from its today's rate, because we won't be as dependent on one customer. So we talked about the distribution. Now let's talk about diversification. So Calgary ranked in the top 10 most attractive cities for workers. And as we discussed, Calgary is oil and gas is the backbone to the Alberta economy. But what this allows, it allows other businesses to thrive off that backbone. So what's great about Calgary is that Calgary's downtown, its current downtown that exists today, was built on $100 oil. So now it has this amazing infrastructure that other businesses can take advantage of and thrive at incredibly affordable prices. And we're seeing that already. The low-cost office space, 27% vacancy rate in office space now in Calgary is fantastic. It's fantastic for these new industries to come in, to set roots down and to flourish. And we're going to show that in a second in some other slides, give some examples. And the great thing is, we talked about the workforce. Alberta is one of the youngest, has the youngest workforce in Canada. So you have the supply of labor, that future supply, that future educated supply of labor, that young labor that companies are going to be looking for to take those quantum leaps to those next steps. And they have the highest proportion of STEM graduates of all major Canadian cities. And that's degrees in math and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Important degrees for the future. So who are these future companies? Well, Calgary is home to 435 technology companies. 3/4 of these are startups. Now, again, great things happen with startups, because what you end up happening is some of these startups hit and then they achieve unicorn status, which we'll talk about in a second. And there are currently more than 2,000 open tech jobs in the city, and it has over 44,000 Calgarians working in the tech sector right now. All in the backbone of oil. So the $100 oil has built the office space. Now the office space, incredibly affordable. Office space in Calgary's downtown leases for an average of $1,750. If we compare that to Edmonton, Edmonton's 23.4% more. Toronto is over double at 102% more. Vancouver is 155% more than opening office space in Calgary. So if we look at the cost sensitivity of a startup company, where they can reduce costs is important. So we have this incubation. We have 435 tech companies. 3/4 of those are startups developing now in Calgary, and success is already happening. So Benivity, an example of one, sells majority stake for $1.1 billion. So what a unicorn is when a company hits $1 billion valuation. So if you look at the date in this article, December 4th, 2020, this is stuff that's happening basically in real time right now. So the tech industry is starting to get noticed in Calgary. And this hasn't been the only unicorn $1 billion valuation. We had Solium Capital was bought by Morgan Stanley for $1.1 billion in 2019. You had Calgary-based medical research firm Parvus Therapeutics, purchased by San Francisco-based microtechnology company that same year, similar for a $1 billion valuation. So what you're having, 2019, 2 unicorns, 2020, another unicorn, you're having these $1 billion deals happening in the tech space in Calgary. Now, why that's relevant is that more investors start taking notice of that market. So the venture capitalist firms that have money are always looking at where is going to be the new hotbed of opportunity where I can make an investment and profit off of my investment. So now where you're starting to see these $1 billion valuations hit, you're going to start seeing venture capital firms start circling that market, because when these valuations hit, those initial angel investors or seed funding investors get huge payoffs because you see the valuation on these companies. So think of it as a sports analogy. So if I'm scouting and I'm looking to draft new players, I'm always looking at what's my competitive advantage against my other teams in the market that I'm in. Well, if there's a country or let's say a specific college program where you're finding under the radar talent and you're able to get that first before anyone else, that's going to provide you with an advantage. And that's what's happening in Calgary right now, because those first movers into this market saw opportunity there and it's starting to flourish. And now what you're going to have is copycats. You're like, oh man, I missed out on that one, but I need to go to Calgary market. I need to get my feet on the ground there. I need to see what other startups do I need to invest in so that I hit on my investments. And because it has such the low cost environment, the low cost office environment, it is such a great place for these startups to begin developing and flourishing. And then also what happens is you get these $1 billion valuations. Well, who else knows that market better than the founders of these companies? Well, what do you think they do to their money? They know how good their market is. They know what else is going on in the tech startup world. They start taking their profits and reinvesting those back into the tech industry and their local markets, and it starts to grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's what you're seeing now in the Calgary market. So we look at this article right here. Calgary is now punching above its weight when it comes to attracting investment capital and high value deals to its tech sector. The Benivity and Solium deals will ultimately help to drive more investment, not only because of the founders and shareholders of those companies now have capital to reinvest, but because their high profile nature will help open the eyes of others with deep pockets to what is going on in the technology space in Calgary. So those are the billion-dollar valuations. Well, let's look at the other companies that are actually taking that office space, where we see the actual jobs, the employment growth. So SciMed had fewer than 20 employees in the spring 2019. Today has more than 200. They just signed a lease for 79,000 square feet of office space, looking to hire an additional 200 to 300 people in 2021 in the behavioral sciences. Halcyon officially outgrew its cramped office space in a suburban area in Calgary, gone from three staff 5 years ago to 68 employees now, plans to have 150 employees by the end of 2021, just signed 20,000 square feet in downtown Calgary, payment processor. LodgeLink will require 300 new technology-based jobs over the next 5 years in Calgary, and will require 50,000 square feet of office space in Calgary. And then on top of this, 300 in additional non-technology jobs LodgeLink will require, and they're in the workflow management area. And internationals are looking at Calgary as well. CloudExa, which is ESQ's new Canadian subsidiary, they have offices in Silicon Valley, India, Mexico, Singapore, and the United Kingdom. And when they looked over all of Canada, they looked at various markets, they ended up picking Calgary because of its low-cost environment and also its growing tech sector. So you may ask, Alex, how do you know that more international companies are going to start looking at Calgary and are going to start coming to Calgary? Because I've already seen it happen in another market. So why would companies come to Calgary? Well, when we look at a different market where this is already happening, we're seeing companies move from Silicon Valley to Texas, California to Texas. Why are they moving from California to Texas? Well, they're fleeing high taxes. Alberta has the lowest corporate tax rate in Canada. Also, from a transactional perspective, there's no land transfer tax or development charges in Alberta. And there's no provincial sales tax in Alberta. It is the most favorable tax environment in Canada. Expensive housing. They're leaving California because it's so expensive to live there. This is where I bring Kyle in. Kyle, your wife works for a company that's headquartered in San Francisco. Why does she have a job in Canada?
Because Canada is much more affordable, but you're still getting a very highly educated and qualified workforce that can do the exact same work, but for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah. And she's international now, but she was in charge of U.S. regulation. She works for a pharmaceutical company. So a U.S. regulation was based in Canada. Yep. Because they could hire two of them here versus one in San Francisco. And the cost of living in San Francisco is just through the roof. You think Toronto or Vancouver is expensive. It's got nothing on San Francisco. So when we see what's happening now, California companies moving to Texas, specifically more the Austin or Dallas area, Calgary has the lowest cost of living out of all second lowest cost of living out of all major Canadian cities, and 9th in North America. And there's limited red tape in Alberta as well. So it's a great environment, low cost environment to attract the talent, and they can actually afford to live there. And then government regulations, no rent control in Calgary as well. They recently made a $175 million commitment to the Alberta Enterprise Corporation for investment. They're actively investing in these innovation sectors that help boost the technology industry, the economy, to use oil and gas as the backbone to grow these other industries. And remember, my background is in economics, so I'm looking on statistics and recognizing patterns. So this is the pattern that I saw. It's already happening somewhere else. It's going to happen here. If we look at the high cost environments of Vancouver and Toronto, they will always be there. It's not going away. But when I'm looking at my other companies, so if I look at my Amazons, my Microsofts, they're going to stay in Vancouver or Toronto. But that second tier company is going to start looking at other options because these large multinationals take up all the talent. So all the talent gets absorbed out of the local market. So how can a smaller company compete with these larger companies that may not be able to? So they got to look at other markets for the talent. And then also from a cost basis, I'm like, it's cheaper over there to operate. I'm going to operate over there. So that's what you're seeing and will continue to see in Calgary. And it's going to continue to grow this way. So who's left? Well, we've had HP. HP is taking a larger presence in Texas. We have Oracle. We have Tesla. Elon Musk has moved his own personal residence out of California into Texas. Same thing as the CEO of Dropbox has left California and has relocated to Texas. And look at these worldwide employees. This is not the number of employees that are moving over from California to Texas, but the worldwide footprint of these companies. And their leaders shifting away from California and moving to Texas because of the lower tax environment, lower cost of housing in these areas, better for their employees. We're going to continue to see that out of California to Texas, and we expect to see the same thing happen in Calgary. Now, speaking about money, oil, backbone, as I mentioned before. What has that allowed Alberta to do? Well, Alberta has been able to save a ton of money. So when we look at the net financial debt in Canada, Alberta has the lowest net financial debt per capita in Canada, significantly lower than the average, which is over $10,000. It's, if I look at this, it's probably around $2,500. And significantly lower beyond Ontario, which is nearly $19,000 per resident. So what does that mean? It means it has the ability to spend and to inject stimulus into its market. It will have the highest growth rate of debt per capita in Canada, but that's because they've done a great job saving. So they have the ability to open things up and spend to attract these other investment opportunities, these other sectors to grow their economy. And one of these things is it just did a $10 billion stimulus package to reduce corporate tax and stimulate the economy. That's in effect right now. And that's how they're able to have the lowest corporate tax in Canada. Very, very important. So we look at now, does Alberta have the ability to spend to go deeper into debt? Yes, because they have the backbone of oil and gas, which then allows them to leverage that and invest in other areas. And to talk about the diversification of the Calgary economy, if we look at where the employment stats are in Calgary, oil and gas is only 6.5% of the current population of Calgary is actually working in those related areas in forestry, fishing, mining, oil and gas. So it's diversified significantly away from that being the major employer. The drop in oil prices, the cutting of jobs, the majority of that has already happened. They've already shed their jobs. They're already running on an efficient level. You'll see more mergers and you'll see some more displacement of workers, but you're also seeing, from an example of moving to a lower cost environment, Suncor is moving their Oakville operation, 700 employees out of Oakville back to Calgary. So that is a net job growth in oil and gas moving to Calgary. Again, lower cost environment, centralizing their operations back into Calgary. So you're seeing things happen positive for Calgary. We're looking beyond the headlines. What's happening beyond the headlines that's positive for the Calgary area? Boom and bust. So Calgary has always been a typical boom and bust environment. And what we're looking at, we're just coming out of the bust cycle. And that's what's key. You want to buy low, sell high. So we're looking at this as the opportunity. We're in the buy low market right now. We're just coming out of it. The fourth quarter of 2020 was the busiest market for Calgary transactions since 2014. We're coming out of the bust market. Calgary is going to come out extremely strong moving forward over the next 3 to 5 years because it has lagged behind everyone else. It has room to grow. And as it invests in these other areas, these other diversifications of the economy. Now, where these opportunities can present themselves. So when we have been investing in Calgary, we've been able to buy pre-construction. So I don't want to own something today in Calgary because we're just coming out of the bus cycle. I want to secure something in Calgary, but I'd like to have it when I'm more on my upward trajectory in regards to dealing with the property. So I'm able to secure a property with only 5% down. These opportunities allow me to assign the unit in the future, but I always say buy and hold is the best way to make money in real estate. We talked about that in my beginning part of the presentation. These properties have 2-year rental guarantees, including full property management, which are cash flow positive. So the lease back, which I'll go into an example in a second, provide cash flow opportunities. I can't do that in the GTA. There's no development charges or other closing costs. That's $20,000 plus in Toronto. No land transfer tax. That's $20,000 in Toronto. So the closing costs are just basically your legal fees in Calgary and Alberta. And as I mentioned, all units are cash flow positive with the rental guarantee. So I want to go through an example of one. So specific units I've actually bought. I take people down the same journey that I go down. Bought a unit there for including GST 38,959. The lease back's calculated before the GST price with this one. So my lease back amount is $1,855. So what that lease back means is the builder is going to lease back the unit from me from day one for $1,855. When I look at my mortgage, my property tax, my maintenance fee, my lease back rent, I'm cash flow positive $265 per month. And I get full property management on that, no extra cost, cash flow positive with the growth of that property factored in. And then the unit I bought at East Hills, bought that one $270,900, 2-bedroom with parking and locker. The lease back on that is as a percentage is a little greater. How the lease back is calculated is a percentage of the purchase price, and then you divide it by 12. So this one here, it actually includes the GST amount because the purchase price is so low. So it's $1,467. When I factor in my mortgage, property tax, maintenance fee, lease back rent, it's still over $200 a month cash flow positive. So why this is important is that my capital outlay, so the amount of money I actually put out for these properties is only 5%. So Era, I put out $20,000. In 2 years, my property goes up $20,000. I've doubled my initial investment. It's 100% return. East Hills Crossing, my deposit was under $15,000. So if it goes up by $15,000 over 2 years, I've doubled my initial investment. That's a great return. Why I want these properties in the future, these buildings will be done 2023, 2024, and I get 2-year rental guarantee. So I'm not worried about these properties until 2026. So that gives me a 5-year time frame for the property to go up in value. And during that time frame, I've been getting positive cash flow when I actually get the property and I get keys in hand. So I don't need to worry about it. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. And there's no crazy closing costs at the end either. So that's why we've been looking at Calgary. And again, pro-investment policy, no rent control, no foreign buyer's tax, no land transfer tax, no provincial sales tax, no development charges, and a $10 billion stimulus package, including reducing corporate taxes. So we've been sending this message since 2019. The first phase of Era, we sold that out 180 units in 3 months, starting in November 2019. Annex, the investor release of 40 units, we sold those in 2 months over the summer of 2020. Remaining units are reserved just specifically for end users that are looking to move into the building. And East Hills Crossing sold out 87 units in 2 weeks in November 2020. That was the most recent project. And what we have coming up is we have Era 2, which is launching actually next week. And then we have East Hills 2, which is launching in mid-March. Again, with these same 5% down and lease back from the builder for 2 years of property management. So we continue to see great opportunity there. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to the floor now to the question and answer period. First question. So if you have any questions, you just click down below and type your question below. Is Calgary downtown a better investment in the long run, or do you see more price appreciation potential on the outside core? I get that question all the time. Great question. I bought in both. So where I look at it is downtown is always a blue chip location. Era 2, for example, it's 10-minute walk to downtown core, and it's just steps to the Bow River. Downtown, that's great. When I look at the suburban location, it's dirt cheap. So in regards to, I see opportunity in both. Which one is going to have the higher growth? I don't know. I bought in both, but I have my blue chip location downtown, and then I have my high growth opportunity. So appreciation, what you're talking about, my high growth opportunity in a suburban location. The East Hills location is just right off of the ring, which goes around Calgary, which is the highway that goes around Calgary. So I could live there lower cost, and I can easily get to various job locations across Calgary. So I'm open to that, open to both. How's public transit in Calgary? Do you need a parking space if you invest in downtown? I do recommend buying a parking space. Yes. There is a, I'm drawing a blank on the name of their transportation system.
C-Train.
C-Train. So they do have, there's a C-Train walking distance to the Era location, for example. But the thing is, because Calgary is such an active community, let's say you want to go to Banff on the weekend. People want to have the car, and then they're going to go drive up to Banff for the weekend or go enjoy the Rocky Mountains. I've done my research on this. I've talked to people. It is still a car-based city. Can you get around? 100%. No problem. But I do recommend having a parking space downtown if you do have the ability to do that with the property.
East Hills Crossing parking does come included in the price.
Yeah. East Hills Crossing, you'll just get it, and for that location, you'd want it because you're in the southeast corner of Calgary, and you have that easy access to the highway network from there. So you're going to want to have a car. Now, East Hills, you do have you're going to have a dedicated express bus that brings you downtown in 20 minutes. When I mean dedicated express, it'll have dedicated laneway access to the bus that brings you downtown. But again, I would say parking is ideal. Could you email me these pre-sale projects? Yes, no problem. Which project is downtown? That is the Era project. What is the vacancy rate downtown? What are the cap rates? Well, here's what it is. It doesn't matter what the vacancy rate is downtown right now because we're in COVID. So all your numbers don't make any sense right now. So you can't really pick that stat out. What the key thing is you get the lease back from the builder. So you don't need to worry about vacancy. We have vacancy protected. So you don't need to worry about, if I get this unit, then it's going to be empty for 6 months. That's not going to happen. And the vacancy rate statistic is irrelevant right now because it is COVID specific right now. But what you will have is a majority of a lot of the rentals in Calgary are 40 years old. So these older buildings in Calgary, the purpose-built rental stock. So you'll be the new product in town, the most attractive product in town, because everyone wants something shiny and new, and living in a new building that is the most efficient building out there. So you'll have the best competitive advantage on the renting side. But again, you're not going to have to worry about it because the rental rates will be confirmed. And in regards to the cap rates, when I get all the pricing, you actually have a full analysis on the ROI and everything. I break down everything for everyone in regards to these are the units, this is your cash flow, and this is your rate of return on your capital invested. I do that calculation for everyone, so I can send that to everyone once I have prices. I don't have prices yet because the buildings aren't launched yet. Back to the Q&A period. So it's not that my investment time frame. So I'll read the question. If your investment time frame is over 5 years, what's the strategy after the rental guarantee is over? Do you sell it, or does hiring property management make sense that you are in Toronto? Excellent question. When I do my one-on-one calls, I get this question. So it doesn't mean my investment time frame is 5 years. I say 5 years because that's where I don't need to worry about it for 5 years. Okay. at the 5-year period, I'll make a decision. If I want to sell the property or if the property is still doing good, that's a decision I'll make. But what I do tell everyone is you will have options at the end of 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, your property is managed by a third-party management company. The first 2 years are included by the builder. At the end of that, you could choose the third-party company, you could choose to continue with them, or I will have another solution. What I mean by that is we've sold just ourselves, and not just ourselves, and then through other connections as well, hundreds of units now in Calgary. So what that means is we'll have bulk purchasing power to negotiate contracts for everyone. Also, I'm invested with multiple units. Kyle is invested as well. We have family invested as well. So we're going to have solutions for everyone, whether you're going to stay with the current management company or we're going to put together a better package for everyone that meets people's needs. So the answer is you probably will be paying for property management in the future. Do you absolutely need to? You don't absolutely need to, because I have people that own condos in Toronto that don't live in Toronto and that don't have property management. The beauty of condos versus buying a building, let's say. Now I own both. I own condos and I own multiplexes and everything. But when I buy a condo, I'm only buying what's on the inside of the concrete walls. Okay. So there's very little that actually goes wrong on the inside of the concrete walls. But when I go outside of those concrete walls, the actual building, there are many more things that can go wrong with the actual building side of it. But I'm only worried about what's happening on the inside of the walls. So because that's the case, you can make a decision if you want to do property management or not. Now, will I do property management? I will, because I still don't want to get any emails. But can you manage that property without property management, even if you're based in Ontario? Yes, you can. Now the next question, 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, either, both work. Now I say I bought 2 bedrooms myself personally. Kyle, you bought a 2 bedroom.
2 bedroom as well. Yeah.
You bought a 2 bedroom as well. My brother bought a 1 bedroom. It just depends on what your comfort level is for budget. Both are good. I don't have an issue in either. If you're in the 1 bedroom, it'll be less than a 2 bedroom pricing. I'm okay with both because all of it is going to be cash flow positive, and it's all going to rent. It's all going to rent out, and it's all incredibly priced that you do have upside on either side. So I'm okay with either. I wouldn't buy a studio, but there are no studios, so you don't have to worry about that. I wouldn't support a studio in this environment, but a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom is fine. Looking to see if there's any other questions. If anyone else have any more questions? Now this has all been recorded, so anyone that's been on here will get sent this. You are also all on the list for any of the upcoming projects. We will let you all know when those projects come. As I said, the next week, February 2nd, is the launch of Era 2. So that's coming right around the corner. Then East Hills Phase 2 will be launching in mid-March. When the email goes out, you'll be able to book a one-on-one call with Kyle or myself to discuss more. Just got another question come up here. Because of COVID-19, home buyers prefer suburban single houses. Why do you still pick up condos as investment? Because COVID is going to end by September. So what I mean by that might be a ridiculous comment. It's going to end in September, but we're going to be majority vaccinated by September. People still need to live in condos. They didn't go away. There's a reason that condos exist. The only and actually suburban condos are still doing quite well. There's no issues in the suburban condos. The only markets that have been impacted are the specific downtown markets, because there is no reason for anyone to live downtown right now. Okay. So no one has a reason to live downtown. Why don't they have a reason to live downtown? Okay. Office buildings are closed. Okay. When I look at what a lifestyle perspective, I loved going out to restaurants. I loved going to sporting events or live concerts, everything like that. The vibrancy, the life of downtown. Well, those don't exist right now. Our office tower is going to open back up. Yes. Our restaurant's going to open back up. Yep. Our live event's going to start again. Yep. And then Also from a border perspective, international students slow to a crawl and immigration slow to a crawl this year. Well, I also know from an immigration perspective, our economy also before COVID relied on immigration, and now we're going to double down on the immigration efforts moving forward. The great news is if I'm an international looking at where am I going to settle myself in the world? Well, safe and boring is where I want. The US isn't safe and boring. The UK isn't safe and boring right now. There is anti-immigrant sentiment in both of those locations. Well, where do I want to relocate my family to? Canada. That's where I want to bring my family to. So that's a driver as well for condos. And again, international students, which I mentioned earlier. The reason this market is down is because we shut off the reason for people to live in condos being close to work and the lifestyle those buildings have to offer. Once we remove that impediment, that's why I make the joke about September, you're going to see everyone rushing back to the market. As well, you got to look at the price gap. We have a great video on our YouTube site talking about the growing price gap between freehold and condos. And when you see the price gap of freehold and condos grow, condos then become the only affordable option for these individuals to live in. And that's actually when you see a jump in condo prices. We've seen that historically in the past. So, and on top of that, when we talk about as an investment, it's 4 concrete walls. I own houses. I own multiplexes. They're a lot more work to manage than four concrete walls. For scalability, to have 10 houses or 10 condos, the scalability of 10 condos is much greater. It doesn't impact my life at all. Whereas if I own 10 houses, I'd be running around a city dealing with those properties all the time.
Your full-time job.
Yeah, I'm all about getting as close to a passive opportunity as possible, but still owning the hard asset. That's the key. So that's why I focus in on condos. No, you'll be fine without the approval. Calgary market was down prior to COVID. Why do you think it will recover? It's a boom and bust economy. We're buying in the down market and looking to we're looking at the upside, and all our economic indicators indicate that it'll be on the upside. Any more questions out there? Just going to go back to the chat for a second because I had to collect something. There we go. Great. So is there any more questions that came up, Kyle?
Nope, don't see any.
Great. Okay, so everyone, this has been recorded. You'll get a recap of this whole presentation in its entirety as well. Era 2 launching next week. East Hills launching in mid-March. We will get you more details on those. So thanks, everyone. Again, if you have any questions, you'll be able to book a call with either myself or Kyle. Looking forward to speaking with everyone. Talk soon. Bye-bye.